and welcome back to another episode of Cocktails with Ciara. My name is Ciara and I'm a whiskey-loving Irish gal who's on a cocktail voyage of discovery. I have zero professional bar experience other than a passion for making cocktails at home and showing you how I do it. So stick around and we both just might learn something, because if I can do it, you can do it. In today's video, we are going to be making a cocktail that is very dear to my heart. It is probably up there with one of my all-time favorite cocktails. And it is one that I have held off on filming for the channel because I was waiting for it to get cold enough. Yes, in today's video, we are going to be making an Irish hot whiskey, also known as a hot toddy, in the traditional way that my mother makes it. When I think about a hot whiskey, to me it is so much more than a simple cocktail. It is a medicinal concoction and it has the power to relieve a variety of ailments, sobriety being one of those ailments. Being from Ireland, we often have cold and wet winters with very short days and just not the best weather. So a hot whiskey is something that really warms the cockles. It is the perfect thing to have on a wet, miserable evening. In Irish households, it is often looked at as the best cure for a common cold or even the flu. Whenever I find myself at home visiting family in the winter months, or especially when I'm at home at Christmas, I have so many hot whiskeys. It's usually around that time of the year that I might have a sniffle or two. I'm very lucky in that I rarely actually get sick, but I have been known to fake the sniffles just so that my mum will whip me up a hot whiskey. Now, I know most Irish mams can make a mean hot whiskey. I do think it's a little bit of a rite of passage. I personally believe that my mum Rose makes the ultimate hot whiskey, so I'm going to be using her recipe today. So before we go ahead and start making a traditional hot whiskey, I wanted to tell you a little bit about the history because it is actually very interesting. But quickly, before we get into the history of the drink, I wanted to take a second to tell you about my Patreon. Not only is it a great way of supporting my channel, but you can also have access to exclusive content and see the stuff that is just too tipsy for YouTube. Okay, so let's get into the history of a hot whiskey. I always assumed that a hot whiskey or a hot toddy had to be very old because it was something that is passed on from generation to generation in Ireland. Again, it is something that is just in pretty much every household, especially at winter time. So I assumed it was a pretty old drink, but actually it is far older than I could have imagined. Much like the old-fashioned cocktail, a hot toddy is a drink that is known around the world, but the ingredients and the exact method vary greatly, and it seems that different countries, even different families, have their own way of doing it. So according to my research, the term toddy actually comes from the word taddy and originated from then British-controlled India all the way back to the 1600s. The word taddy originally referred to hot water mixed with palm sugars. However, there is another story that tells tale of an Irish doctor called Robert Bentley Todd, and legend has it that this Irish doctor began prescribing to patients to drink a mixture of hot brandy, cinnamon and sugar water to alleviate certain symptoms like colds or the flu. So regardless of where it actually came from, a hot toddy or a hot whiskey is an absolute staple in an Irish household, and it is a cocktail that I absolutely love. Like I said, I don't even think of it as a cocktail. It is something so much more to me. So without further ado, let's get into the ingredients and we can actually start making one. So I'm pretty sure that I have memorized my mum's recipe for a hot whiskey, but I am just going to give her a quick call just to get her to run me through it. I'm not going to tell her that I'm filming.
This is the hot whiskey. You need lemons, cloves, brown sugar and whiskey.
What kind of whiskey do you use?
If you were using Irish whiskey, it's the best because look. Now, have you got the proper glasses with the handle?
I do. I bought them from Galway Crystal.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I did.
Combining the whiskey with the brown sugar. Does mean a few lemon slices with whole cloves. You can use 6 to 8 cloves.
Yeah, brilliant. And Mum, how much whiskey would you recommend using? Can I do like a big shot or maybe 2 shots?
No, you do 1.5 ounces of whiskey, a wedge of a lemon, and then put 6, or even you can put up to 8 cloves. 6 anyway cloves into the lemon.
Brilliant.
3/4 cup boiling water. 3/4 because you have more or less the whiskey bit in, and then with the 3/4 bit up. somebody came into your house, this and you'd be given a hot toddy. Some people like a little bit of half a teaspoon, maybe of honey to make it a bit sweeter if they found with the lemon.
All right, well look, I'll leave you to it and I'll get cracking, okay? Thanks for the call. Okay, love you loads. Right, from the horse's mouth. All right, so now I've gotten all the intel I need directly from the source. I know exactly what I have to do to make my hot whiskey. So I'm going to be using my kettle. I'm going to pop this on and let it boil. Actually shocks me how some households in other countries don't have a kettle. How on earth do you make tea without a kettle? I don't understand. I've seen some hilarious videos on the internet of people trying to make a cup of tea with a saucepan of water. I've seen people try and make tea in the microwave, which honestly is blasphemy. As my mum said, it is best to use Irish whiskey. So we're going to be using some Jameson. It's usually something we have in the house at Christmas time. We usually have a couple of bottles of Irish whiskey, to be honest, but she's definitely made them with Jameson before. So now that we have all of our ingredients ready, let's actually get to making the cocktail. So let's start off by adding in our whiskey. I asked my mum about doing a double shot, which would be roughly 60 mils. I am just gonna stick to what she says because mum always knows best. So we're gonna do 45. We're gonna pour that in. So I've done one chunky lemon slice and I've halved it. I'm going to pop in my cloves. So I have the long ones here so you can basically like poke them in. Oh my God, they smell just like Christmas. It's amazing. I'm probably gonna do 3 each side. This is gonna add that lovely, you know, like Christmas spice, like things like nutmeg and cinnamon and cloves. They're just a really certain type of flavor. I think cloves have some sort of health benefits as well. I think that all of these ingredients together really are good for soothing a cold or a sore throat. So I'm telling you, if you've not tried this as a cure, you gotta try it. Now we have our beautiful clove studded lemons and our whiskey in there. But before I add in the hot water, we're gonna do something very important. We're gonna take a metal spoon and pop that right down into the glass. It's going to take a lot of the heat out of the water and it's gonna stop your glass from shattering. So do not forget this, it's important. So I'm gonna slowly pour the hot water in. Our drink is almost done, but the last thing we're gonna do is add in a little bit of honey. You don't have to include honey, but for me, and the way mum usually makes it for me, is that she includes honey. So I'm gonna do just a teaspoon, not even, yeah, like a small teaspoonful, and I'm gonna stir that into it. And of course, that's gonna add a really nice bit of sweetness. This is such a nostalgic drink for me. It just reminds me so much of Christmas and the colder months. Okay, so here we have our finished hot whiskey or hot toddy, as is made by my amazing mother. So if you'll join me over on my cocktail drinking chair, I'm gonna try this and I'll let you know what I think. So I'm back in my cocktail drinking Dr. Evil chair and I'm going to try this. It is still so lovely and warm on my hands. Oh my God, this is just, it's just such a joy. If you have never tried a hot whiskey, you have to try one. They're just so beautiful. Let's try it. Oh, it's just like the most enjoyable hug in a glass. It is absolutely delicious. The temperature is perfect. Leaving the spoon in it for a little while will take a lot of the heat out of it. It's so good. And the honey to me doesn't taste overly sweet. This makes me feel like I'm cozied up at home with the dogs and my family, my sisters, while there's a big turf fire burning. We have like a big turf pile outside. Oh, it's just heaven. So we're now at that point of the video where I can sit back, enjoy my hot toddy, and I'm gonna answer some of my Patreon questions. These questions were submitted by members of my lovely Patreon community. I will leave a link in the description if you want to check it out. Obviously, it's not only a great way of supporting my channel, but you can also have access to exclusive content. Like I said, you can see the stuff that's just too tipsy for YouTube. I'll leave it in the description. So I have a question here from the lovely Shelley, and Shelley asks, what is the worst/best thing about lockdown in Ireland? Shelley, that's a very good question. I'm just gonna take a sip and have a think about that. Okay, so Shelley, easily the worst thing about being in lockdown, it's a no-brainer, is not being able to see my family. I am a bit of a home bird, and even though I'm not living close to home, I live in a different county, I do travel home as much as I can, so not being able to see them has been quite difficult this year. That's probably been the hardest thing, but so many other people are in the same situation. I'm incredibly lucky that my family are all well. You know, we're really close. We're staying in great contact. Was just on the phone to my mum there. So it is all good. And I am so looking forward to seeing them. So I know it's fine. So the best thing about being in lockdown, there's a lot of things I actually like about being in lockdown. And I feel like the main thing, it's kind of a general answer, is the coziness, if that makes sense. It's the ability to accept and kind of surrender to the circumstances and just slow down a little bit. So I hope you enjoyed seeing me recreate my mum's traditional recipe for a hot whiskey. I would love to know how you make yours. I know it is something that is not just a staple in Ireland, but the world over people make their hot whiskies or their hot toddies. How do you make it? Do you use whiskey? Do you use something else? I know a toddy can mean anything. So tell me how you make yours. I would really, really love to know, is it something that is done in your family traditionally, or is it something that you made up yourself? Please let me know in the comments because I'm really interested in this. If you liked this video, please do give it a thumbs up. And if you would like to see more cocktail videos, I will leave a link up here. I have so many other easy ones that you can make at home. And if you have not already, then please do subscribe to my channel. I post new videos every single week and I would love to have you back for more. Thank you so much for watching and I will see you on my next one. Cheers.